Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Kopi with Wawan. In this episode, I am joined by my good friend and mentor, Syed Hanif. Now, Hanif runs his very own video production company and has worked on many prominent video projects. We're talking about from corporate video profiles to music videos. He's learned to navigate his way through the craft and business and rise above the challenges that the industry puts forward. In this interview, we cover on what it means for us to build on our passion, the struggles and challenges we face on the journey, and if it's possible for us to make a living from what we love doing. Thank you for tuning into this episode. I hope you guys enjoy it. And for those of you guys who haven't subscribed yet to the channel, please do so you guys can get notifications on our future videos.
Yeah, I think for me it's always about doing whatever I wanted to do. Started off with a passion. I guess basketball was probably my first passion.
Okay.
No, actually, no, drawing was my first passion. So as a kid, I used to draw a lot, sketched a lot,
Right.
and my parents were quite encouraging. And because of that, I felt like, okay, I can do whatever I want to do. That I've, sort of like, these little creative passions that we want to fulfill. And growing up, I was able to fulfill them lah. And then after that, I got into basketball and played that religiously throughout my elementary years. And right after that, it was going into, I started off doing DJing, I guess, when I was about 16, at one time. And because of that, I was just so into music. And before this whole production thing, I was actually doing beats. I was making beats at home and creating music. And from there, of course, the breakdancing was way even before that,
Before that,
Yeah. So for me, it's always about these little hobbies I had and wanting to fulfill whatever it is that I wanted to be fulfilled at that time. Yeah. So yeah, and all those things. I just feel. I go through life doing the things that I really wanted to do. That's pretty much it.
So those were the things that you were actually passionate about?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So here's my question then. There's this old adage or like old debate that people like myself and a lot of people tend to go through on a day-to-day basis, which is, what do you chase? Do you chase for passion or do you go for money?
Oh.
And is there a sweet spot between the two, or?
Well, here's the thing. You got to find that sweet spot. Like for me, growing up, I wasn't a rich kid. You know what I mean? I didn't have the luxury of having a hobby.
Right.
I wanted to do breakdance, but it's got to be like something that I can be able to sustain. You know what I mean? Even when it goes into DJing, if I'm just like a rich kid with a hobby for DJing, these things are expensive.
Yeah.
Back in the day, a DJ set would cost about 10,000 ringgit and above.
Ooh.
Yeah, and I was 16 at that time, so I'm like, how do I get something like that?
10,000 ringgit is a lot of money even today.
Even today, exactly.
Yeah.
So how? You know what I mean? Like, it's not about calling my parents and be like, oh, Dad, I want a DJ set and things like that. It's got to be something else. So how did I, how am I able to fulfill my passion? And of course, there's always, I had to work on the side,
Right.
a side hustle. But once I go into DJing, you got to start, making money straight away.
Okay.
By performing or doing shows and things like that.
So to you, the two was never separated?
Never. It could never be. It could never be separated, because I think, like I said, even like today in production, the cameras that we buy, the tools that we use is expensive. You would know that as well. So
just this kind of the setup looks deceptively simple, but there's a lot of gears and everything that goes into.
Exactly. So imagine if I was going to buy a camera costing 20,000 ringgit, how would that affect my family? You know what I mean? Like they'd be, wow, that's crazy. But if you turn it into business, then it's something else.
Okay, so here's the funny thing, because I'm having this image of you right now of somebody who has always been good with money, and everything that you do, you're just always macam looking for like, how do I sell this, right? Because I remember there's this thing, we've known each other for some time right now. I think this is quite funny, because every kid likes to draw, or that's quite a common thing. And I remember I used to draw comics, I used to let people read and all that. But correct me if I'm wrong, you used to draw, say, like Street Fighter characters, and you would sell them. How old were you?
I was 8. I remember I was 8 years old. It was back in the States. My dad was posted there for about 7 years. Okay. And I remember I used to draw a lot as a kid. That was probably my first ever passion. Drawing was my first passion. And my parents were very encouraging. They always buy me art blocks and things like that. And even a funny story, my dad wanted me to join a karate class, and I'm like, no, I want to join painting. I want to join painting classes. And he's like a bit confused, but he was still very supportive of it. And I remember I would draw all these characters, and then I would follow my dad to the office and chill with him over the weekend. And I see there's a photocopying machine, And I told my dad, can you make some copies for me?
Yeah,
And he's like, why? I'm like, I just don't know. I just make some for me. So he came back with a few copies, and I went to school and sold them for a quarter. You know?
Right.
Yeah, and people would buy them and color them in, you know.
I see.
Yeah, that's how I started with this whole, I guess, entrepreneurial journey.
Right.
Without really knowing what it was.
Yeah. And that was by accident then. It wasn't like by design. Your parents didn't.
No. I just felt like, I think, well, if somebody wants to buy it, then go ahead. Like, I'm cool with it. Yeah.
You just sell it like that.
Yeah, it was a quarter for like A4.
Right. Now you have kids of your own, right?
Yeah.
Like, would you encourage that in them? Seeing how that has affected you? I don't know if there's a kind of like confidence building, you think, for anyone to grow up knowing that, I can turn my passion into something that's a bit more sustainable.
Definitely. I think with my kids, I'm trying to look at, a different, I guess, sort of angle on how to raise them as far as passion is concerned. Because I'm trying to look at the kind of things they're passionate about and see if they can turn that into something that they can sustain. The last thing, because they don't have a rich dad for them to be able to do anything that they want. They can't. So in order for them to be able to continue doing the things that they want to do or the things that they're passionate about, they gotta be able to sustain it. If it means selling lemonade on the side, and they have to do it.
When it comes to finding your passion, right? Not everybody's blessed, I think, to know it either from a young age ataupun even to have parents who are very encouraging, telling them to explore different things. So if I'm not mistaken, you went to career counselling at what most people would consider to be quite a late age, like that. Because career counselling, you imagine going when you're 15 or 16. Yeah. You went in your mid-20s?
30s.
You went in your early 30s?
Yeah, 30s. It was a dilemma because because I was about to quit my corporate job. I had a pretty good, I guess, job in a corporate company. And I needed to make a decision, whether I'm going to stay or, leave.
Okay.
Yeah, So I actually decided to go to career counselor because I want some kind of clarity. All this while in my life, I've always sort of decided on my own.
Okay.
And I guess, alhamdulillah, it's been okay.
Yeah.
But this was a big choice because it was one of those things where it involved family members. It involved my kids, my family and everything like that. And I remember going to a career counselor and it was pretty straightforward. I thought he would actually give me an advice. After meeting me for like an hour, he might just look at you and be like, looking at you, and based on what you tell me, you should be this, But he didn't. He just said, so, okay, simple question, what do you browse through every morning? You know what I mean? And then I told him, and I'd go through my browsing history and be like, cinematography, cameras, video editing, and so on and so forth. And he said, well, that might be it.
That might be it.
Yeah.
They kind of gave you space for you to decide
exactly.
what the answer is.
Exactly.
Right.
Of course, because the thing is, when I was still working, I was doing these little stints of freelance work on the side. So when I because I got to find out what's okay. So if I leave, what's the lowest hanging fruit?
I see.
Which for me would be videography because it's something that I'm quite familiar with.
Right.
So
you were skilled enough.
Somewhat lah. I could edit, I could shoot, and everything like that. And I felt like
test that people have paid you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right. So okay, that's one thing lah. I think the test of whether you're good or not is when people actually pay you.
I see.
And render your services lah. That means okay lah. Yeah, I'm quite.
It's something that not everyone can do. Therefore, they would render that service.
Yeah, correct.
What is the word that I'm looking for here? It's kind of like testing the waters first, or getting some sort of validation through that monetary union.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's it's funny that you mentioned waking up and browsing through first thing in the morning, because I have had this discussion with a lot of people who are, we're late in our 20s or early in our 30s, and we still are very unsure what our passion is. So I have a friend who said to me, the first thing I browse through videos of cats. So what would you say to somebody in that position if they're like, what can I do if I'm passionate about cats?
What's his or her day job?
Econs.
Keep the job.
Keep the job. So that's what you would say.
No, I mean, the thing is, you gotta know, if you're into cats, well, I mean, I don't know, maybe there is a potential for it to be business. Maybe you actually want to be a vet. Something that you can explore. Maybe you want to own a pet shop on the side.
I see.
You know what I mean? Like an additional, but that, not necessarily, what do you call that? Not everything can be turned into a business, But if ever they choose to do,
Will you think for somebody in that position, it's important for them to try out many different things. And do you think it's important for everyone to find their passion, or do you think it's just, you know, something that some of us are just privileged to do lah?
Well, it's a bit difficult to say because I think some people within their work or within the scope that they're working in, they are definitely passionate about it. You know, even if you're doing accounting, you know, maybe to us creatives, we look at them like, oh, it's very mundane. But some people really look at numbers and are just passionate about it.
Sure.
You know, maybe passionate about, you know, checks and balances. I don't know. You know, so
it happens.
it happens. Yeah. You know, but of course, there's also stories of these people who, you know, actually on the side they want to be guitarists. You know, and they actually form a rock band on the side. Those kind of guys who have a lot of money, yeah, they can afford this kind of hobbies.
It's a hobby on the side. It's just
perhaps
they spend a couple of hours a night thinking that they pretend that they're rock stars lah.
Yeah.
That works as well.
Exactly.
And you think that's fulfilling life on its own?
It's fine.
Well,
You kind of know where you want to go to, because at the end of the day, you know, whatever we do, you know, we're spending close to, like, some of us 20 hours a day doing the stuff that we do. You know, especially in production, 20 hours. You only maybe sometimes 22 hours. You only have 2 hours of sleep, perhaps. You know.
Oof.
Yeah.
And you've been.
I've been in that kind of
before,
exactly.
Right? You have to stay up late nights. Editing, the next day you're shooting.
Exactly.
And so this is a point that I kind of like want to touch. I know that that's not something that is new to you actually. You've been doing that for some time, right?
Yeah.
Like back in your DJ days, if I'm not mistaken, you used to put in like 15 hours a day of practice just to get one technique right?
Correct, yeah.
Yeah, so here's the thing. Do you think when it comes to especially creative in your work, is it talent or is it more of hard work to kind of make it or build something?
I think it's a bit of both.
It's a bit of both. Right?
Definitely, it's a bit of both. Like, you know, you got to put in the work. You know what I mean? You got to put in the work. Like, you know, of course, the first stage is always just, you know, copying somebody. You know what I mean? Like, scratching was the same. I was trying to copy a few DJs that I was really into and just looking at how they do it, studying the tapes and just trying to get the rhythm in and things like that. And I would to do that like 18 hours a day. For like 6 months, you know, like hibernating in just 6 months, and then come out and like, oh, okay, you know, he's finally out, you know, like, now I got new skills to show and things like that. So I've always been, I know what that's like, you know, going to a cave and like, you know, chilling and then, you know.
So what does that mean? You know, like when you say going into a cave, is that like you kind of finding like a zone? In isolation?
Exactly.
Like, can you elaborate? What do you mean by
I think you that's the right word. I mean, for me, it's going, it's, you know, when you say in the zone.
Yeah.
You know, that's it, like zoning out. You know, what does that mean?
Out.
Yeah, it's particularly out of everyone's radar and going into your little cave or bedroom or whatever and like practicing and, you know, putting in the hours. You know, these are the things that people don't see. You know, once you're out, they see like, wow, how did you do that? You know, it was the same for breakdancing. You know, I used to practice. People like, hey, let's go out and let's hang out and chill. I'm like, I'm not ready yet, because whatever you're gonna see of me is something that you've already seen. I don't want that.
I see.
You know, so what I do is like, just tell them like, no, I'm busy, but actually at home I'm practicing.
You're practicing.
Yeah. So by the time I come out,
secret practice.
Exactly.
Don't tell people that.
Exactly.
Okay.
So by the time I come out, they're like, oh, where did you learn that? I'm like, well, you know, that's what I was doing.
You make it look as though you figured it out 5 minutes ago.
Yeah, exactly. You know, But for me, because when I'm in the zone, I put 110%.
Yeah.
You know, like, you gotta have that. You know, if you
Okay, so here's the thing though. I find that going into the zone and disappearing in isolation is something that is so common. I've read about many creatives, they tend to do that, you know. I'm not sure how familiar you are, I think, with Heath Ledger in Joker performance.
Okay, yeah.
I think him and a few writers, they always have this common thing where, you know, like Heath Ledger, before he got the Joker voice right, he spent like 4 weeks, I think, in a hotel room by himself.
Yeah.
And that was, you know, and he was just there writing on a journal. He has a specific journal, just how he wanted the character to sound, what was the mentality, and he would always refer back to the journal every time the cameras were rolling. But I feel that, do you think that today people don't appreciate or understand the importance of isolation as much, especially in this kind of social media age where we're just never disconnected? And to us today, it's all always about getting that recognition. Like, you know, everybody, is normal for us to want recognition, but today macam it's almost like recognition on steroids. Yeah, like
immediate recognition all day, every day,
right?
every day.
And I'm guilty of it. You know, of sometimes, you know, you're shooting and you just feel like, I'm gonna do an Insta story today. Nobody really it doesn't really do much, but you know, there is that sense of like that instant recognition. Do you think that's an actual problem today, or am I just blowing this out of proportion?
It could be, you know. But the thing is, I grew up in an era where
pre-internet,
pre-social media,
pre-social media,
definitely pre-social media,
and
I'm like, pre-social media. And the thing is, I love going into that zone.
I see.
Because most people may not know this. I'm actually an introvert.
You don't come off across as
I
an
don't.
introvert.
But I am.
Okay.
And I love it. You know what I mean? I love it. Like I'd rather spend time with family than out.
I see. I see.
And back in the day, I used to lie to my friends that like I can't go out with them, and I'll get my mom to just scream over the phone like, "Ma,
Oh my
jerit sikit,
god.
jerit sikit."
Oh
Like,
my god.
oh,
That
Nif, get
is
off the phone. Yeah, I do that because I
yeah,
just want to chill at home. Like,
Yeah.
it's something about being social. I think there's a time and place for it.
Yes. Yes.
But I don't know. For me, if it's just out there chilling and talking, and I guess back in the day, it was always talking about, whatever. You know what I mean? I'd rather
sure.
build on something. You know what I
Right,
mean? Like
right.
that's where you build on, I guess your dreams and things like that.
Right.
Yeah.
So you rather be proactive.
Yeah,
That's fair.
I like proactivity. Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
that's fair. Okay, so
Yeah.
here's the thing that I've been blessed to work with you on a couple of projects.
Mm.
And I've seen how you work. You're like to me you're the closest thing to I would say the full all-rounder video guy or filmmaker. You can edit,
Okay,
you can
thank
shoot,
you.
you can no seriously. And I've seen a lot of your work, right? And I think you've done some pretty amazing or really amazing music videos. You've worked with local rapper Aman Ra.
Yeah.
You did 2 music videos with Aman, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so it was Brother and Bangun.
Correct.
Right,
Yeah.
so they both pretty much blew up, but before I want to talk about the numbers, I just want to talk about it from a technical perspective. It looks amazing.
Okay, thank you.
It looks really powerful in the sense of there's a story to it and there's a lot of emotions. Did you study filmmaking, dude?
No, I didn't.
You didn't study
I
filmmaking.
didn't study filmmaking.
How? Because that video, when I looked at it, it looked as though that if you were to say to me, "Oh, I studied at USC or NYU," I would have believed you. Like really, and I'm not just saying that because when I think I was one of your first few test audience when you showed.
Yeah.
And so because I love both of those things. So
Thank you.
So how did you not go to film school and gathered the skills to actually produce those?
To be honest, I think it was also the team. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, to be first and foremost, shout out to Aman Ra for the song. Like,
Okay.
when I first heard Bangun, I'm like, wow, this is a very funky, interesting song.
Okay.
And what's funny is, kebetulan, during that period, we were doing a social project with a couple of PPR kids, budak-budak flat.
Budak-budak flat.
Yeah, this is just like a year before this whole project came
Right.
into light.
Yeah.
And I remember like going to these kids because we're doing some like a project with the PPR kids and teaching them how to do to I guess earn extra income by learning videography and editing skills.
Okay.
Yeah. So I remember the first time I met up with these kids, they're like, "Who is this guy trying to teach me? Like, is this for real?" And I'm like, trying to be as relatable to them as possible. You know what I mean? Because and I remember telling them, one of the projects we do is we actually do music videos. So but I don't know who we're going to be able to do, and so on. But if it does come, if the opportunity does come, definitely you guys are going to be part of this project. And then like a year later, like this project came into the picture, and I'm like, oh my god, this song really fits that whole scenario.
Right, yes, because the song is all about people living in flat ataupun kira low cost housing area and rising above the situation, right?
I would say so. I'm sure Aman also has an extra layer of that, that he could explain about budak flat. But to me, that was what the song was about.
To you, that was
to
what
me,
the song was
when it hit
about.
me, I'm like, oh, this is actually, let's do this concept.
Yeah.
And I already had inroads to this community.
I see.
And these guys are already shooting stuff with me on the side. Why not get them to act and also do stuff in the video? Which made a lot of sense.
You see, okay, because I do love the music video for a lot of different reasons. Because I grew up thinking that I was black or I was gonna be a rapper someday.
Okay.
So that was just like a fantasy. I tell people, they say, "Oh, what do you want to do?" Like, "Oh, I was meant to be a rapper,
Okay.
not like a content creator or anything like that." But I remember growing up, and of course, the rap music I listened to was not that great in terms of substance wise,
Okay.
content. It was just not the best of message. And I think the local scene, there was some of it that was really good. That I think I like Too Fat and all those guys. But there was a big chunk of it that tried to copy the Western punya style of bling blings and very materialistic punya world, right?
Yeah.
What Aman did, I felt like is closer to what's important to me. Is what's happening on the ground, the struggles of life, and just rising above that. Did you intentionally, you think, seek for somebody like Aman to create something like that, or
No,
yeah?
it just happened.
Like
But
birds
for
of
us,
a feather.
for me, it's like trying to understand would want for the project.
I see.
But at the same time, trying to inject our own ideas into the project.
Yeah.
I think for me, actually, to be honest, a lot of the things I do, I leave it to God. You know what I mean? Like, there's certain things I just like. I don't sort of pre-plan anything. Like, if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. That's it. It's as simple as that.
That's right.
There's nothing like I can say, oh yeah, we sourced out Ahmad or Ahmad sourced us out. No, it was just like one of those things where it sort of happened. He actually got through our friend Haq.
Yep.
Because Haq did the
he was
Budak
editing.
Flat music video for
Right.
Ahmad. And Haq is another
He was
talented
editor,
guy.
yeah? Yeah.
He shot the Budak Flat video and did everything on his own.
I see.
After that, like, Ahmad wanted something
Well,
slightly bigger.
He was self-taught like yourself as well when it comes to film.
Yeah, definitely.
So
Yeah.
you have been surrounded by self-taught filmmakers or videographers.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe we just click together and things like that,
Okay.
So and for Bangun, Haq was definitely involved, like he shot with us and he also edited the video, and that's why it looks so cool.
So okay, there's probably a lot of people out there who, I think I came to you with this question multiple times, and it's still something that I'm always kind of like trying to figure out or reconcile, right? This idea is that if you want to do films but you don't go or can't afford film school, like what should you do then? What is the best way around that?
Go and intern with some film companies, work, and I guess work in the industry and find out
Right.
how they do things.
So it's quite literally jumping
Into it, yeah, really
the
just
deep
jumping
end,
into it. Yeah.
and just what was I
Yeah.
saying? You kind of, it's like jumping off a plane and building one on the way down.
On the way down.
Oh crap!
A
man.
shoot on the way
That's
down.
scary. That is
Yeah,
really
yeah.
scary.
Yeah, it can be, but I mean, if you're passionate enough, like tak malu lah,
Tak malu lah.
you just got to do it because you know that that's what you want in the end.
I see.
You know what I
I
mean?
see.
What's your end game? Is
What's
it
the
to
end
really to become a good filmmaker? You got to work with learn from some of the best.
Right.
Yeah.
And I guess we're also living in a day and age where information and filmmaking is quite democratized, because there's just so much stuff on the internet that I swear without the internet there's been so many things that have been so difficult for me just to figure out. That you can just Google search something and suddenly within minutes you're like, oh, that was a simple fix.
Yeah.
And it's and so I guess there's no better time for someone to search for their passion. Would you agree?
I would agree, but at the same time, I think people also have to stop hoarding information because there's so much. I do the same. I'll save a lot of information. I'm like, you know what, but that's not getting me to doing a film, or that's not getting me to do something. So the best is always just taking out your camera, sit with your team, practice, and just shoot something and just get something going. Because
like
if you're just hoarding information, you're like, oh, this is good, then what? What do you have to show for it? Yeah, because like I said, pre-social media, I used to like learn beat making from a friend. I used to drive to his house almost every day to just learn, and I would stay at his house for like a month to just learn what it took to make beats.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's it. Like betapa lah, like
macam berguru
lah.
You find your teacher. It was quite difficult.
Exactly. And these people were accessible. Like while they're doing what you're sitting down, you're like, oh, you're really just absorbing what they're doing and then learning from them.
Oh, that's really good.
I still appreciate that more than going online, buying courses and things like that. I do buy courses online. I think some of them are really great, but nothing beats actually just being around the people that you look up to, and tak apa lah, jadi kuli lah, but the knowledge that you get out of it is beyond that lah.
There's almost like like an old tradition of mentorship as well, I guess. It goes there, if you like into Star Wars films, which you're not really into.
Not really.
You're not really into Star Wars films, but I'm into.
My Rebel Scum friends will be quite upset, but I'm not really a
Star Wars fan. Star Wars, okay, but that whole Luke and Yoda relationship, it's still something that you think is relevant even with the vast information that's free out there. I agree with that.
Because someone's gotta guide you through those information. It's the same with religion. I mean, if you look at it, from the Quran, you reading the Quran, you will see it from your own point of view. But you sort of need some sort of guidance to be like, oh, okay, what it's trying to say is this, and this. And this is the information. But of course, when you go to different gurus, they'll have a different. So it's up to you to see and decide. Like, what's the path you want to take? Sure.
Sure. No, you're right. I definitely.
But you need to be guided. Somewhat.
Yeah. You can't just pick a book and say like when it comes to religion, you mentioned like if us as Muslims, it's kind of tough because you could read an English translation, but it's not really the Quran because it's in Arabic, and the Arabic has a whole different kind of nuance.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It's the same with any craft that you pick, right? Your understanding of it is just one layer. You could read about how to make a whole feature film.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's something else to be actually on set
Yeah.
and to see it happening
Yeah.
versus then reading like 20 books
Yeah,
on
yeah,
the subject, right? Okay,
Yeah.
I appreciate that. I definitely can appreciate that.
Yeah.
Alright, so just to go back on the music video again, right? Aside from it, being like technically a really, powerful piece, it also garnered quite a bit of views, bro.
Yeah. Well, that's primarily thanks to Aman.
Really, yeah?
Yeah, I think the song took it to the next level. Like people were on repeat. I mean, I think more people listening in the background than they are watching the video. I mean, I'm hoping that.
Still, like I think Bangun had 11 million views.
Yeah.
The second one, Brother, was 1.3.
Something like that. Yeah.
So would you think that fame is is it about the fame when it comes to, say, chasing passion? I know that when you're in filmmaking and content creating, fame and money just kind of seems to be the only two things on the surface. It looks like that's what it's all about. But do you think that's what it's all about? And you are somebody who has, you can actually say, you can actually show that this is what I produce. This is the freaking views I got, man.
Well, here's the thing. For me, fame, as long as the fame is able to sustain your passion, by all means.
You're okay with that?
Yeah, I'm an introvert. Like I said, I don't really need to go out there and show for nothing. You know what I mean? I'd rather be in the behind the scenes creating something and let it speak for it. Yeah, and just get the monetary side of things and be able to sustain my passion. That's it. Because I know how fame can really get to you,
No, you can. And whether you have it or you don't have it, it can get to you, right? So, for example, I think, macam like the channel that I'm running right now, the views are what it is. It's very transparent. You can't even lie about how many views you get or how many subs, right? And there will be days when I look at somebody else who are doing either something similar or whatever. They've put in this similar kind of effort. We're not talking about guys like Casey Neistat who has put in like 1,000. Like, I can't compare myself to guys like that, because that they've put in way more effort than I have into their craft, right? Which is why they're where they're at. But let's just say, so comparing thing, when you go to macam, I feel bad on some days. What would you say to somebody who's going through that? They're in either early stage of their journey or I don't know, the midway or anything like that.
For someone who's not getting the views, you mean? You're saying, or getting traction, or
I would say that not to say not getting the views, but I guess that kind of recognition. What would you say to somebody? Why would they? Like, I have my answer why I would carry on. What would you say to somebody if they're not getting any traction and they're finding a reason? Do I continue doing this or do I just like give up?
How do you feel doing it? How do you feel doing it? If you feel happy doing it, it shouldn't matter.
Right.
I know it's easier said than done. Like, it shouldn't matter, but then I gotta pay my bills. Yeah, like, well, if it's not really paying your bills, then you got another priority that you gotta worry about, which is maybe you need to pay your bills first. Which is getting a job, or instead of doing a YouTube channel, like in your case, I know what you're doing. Which is good is you're sort of building a sort of like a production house as well.
Sure.
That's sort of like sustaining. That you're getting some client jobs and all that to sustain which is good. That's what it's all about. Like if you're just relying on this whole YouTube thing to make money, then it's not as easy as people think.
No.
But if you're happy doing it, go ahead. Then
But a lot of people think it's fluff, though. What do you say to that? Because you're not the first one who say it. I could quote many other guys like PewDiePie. He claims that he didn't care working at a hot dog stand because he was happy making those videos. I don't enjoy his videos particularly, but he would look at me and say like, I don't give a what you think, and it's true because look at the number of subs he has. My opinion really kind of doesn't mean anything, right?
Sometimes I don't know. I do know some people who just
who thinks it's fluff.
No, thinks it's fluff maybe. I don't know, but I guess you know what your priorities are. Like for me, to be honest, my priority is my family. That's it. Like that's why I was so in love with video filmmaking that I needed to turn it into a business.
I see.
I couldn't sustain it as a passion.
Okay.
Like no way am I going to be able to afford an expensive camera with whatever salary I was making.
Okay.
You know what I mean? You didn't justify.
It doesn't justify.
Yeah, but when you turn it into business, then of course you get business in, you buy equipment and things like that. It makes more sense.
You see, I really like how you're phrasing all this, right? Because you're not like Mr. Krabs, where from I'm not sure if you watch SpongeBob, where it's all about the money. Because you do enjoy what you do. There's no doubt that you love it, but at the same time you're also very practical in the sense of like it has to make money one way or another lah, you know. So I don't know, like, how did you find that balance? Because most people I talk to, they only see A or B. They only see you know, if there is passion, there's no money in it, and if it's money, you know, like you're supposed to hate your job. So if you're not stressed out, you're not unhappy, meaning you're not really working. There's a lot of people under that mindset, you know. And why do you think that is, and do you think it should change?
Well, I'm not speaking for everyone, only for myself, you know. Should it change? I don't know.
You don't know,
but
right?
I think it's knowing what's enough. How much can you really swallow, right? What's enough? Like, you can be getting $1 million project, but you know the amount of time that's going to take from you, and you know the amount of time it's going to take away from your family and everything else. Is that 2 million ringgit worth all that time and effort? You know what I mean? So you look at it and be like, you know, I kind of don't need it. I don't mind the smaller jobs, but I get my sanity, I get my health, I get my whatever. You know, and I think second is because I got into setting up my own company at a later age. You know, I was already 31. I was 31 when I started. It would have been different if I was younger. It'd be more of a, you know, like, yeah, let's do it. Let's just get this. Take anything. Let's do it. You know, now I'm looking at things from a different perspective. And the thing is, you don't want to hate what you're passionate about. I don't want to hate this relationship. Right. You know what I mean? That's very interesting. So I kind of like want to, you know, like take it slow. Okay. You know what I mean? Take it slow, relax, and you know, say, okay, if there's this job coming in, we look at it, I'm like, okay, this is quite okay. The timeline's good. The team is happy to do it. You know, it's not going to take a toll on them. And okay, let's do it.
Those things are costs as well, right? People don't think about that, right? Which, when you just said family or sanity and all this, so it's not just a 2 million ringgit project in terms of like, oh shit, that's 2 million ringgit. It's like, okay, 2 million ringgit. How's the relationship going to be like with you know, the family and your team? Do you want to put your team under kind of pressure, right? I suppose you say that 2 million, half of that is still $1 million, which is still good, right? And let's just say that one is a lot less, you know, pressure and all that. You're right. Why not? Sometimes it's for you know, it's not like you're not going to be able to eat. It's not like you're not going to be able to feed yourself and live a very comfortable lifestyle with that amount, right? So I guess that's hard for anyone to kind of like realize this. Okay, so I want to talk about, because we're talking about money and like, you know, basically creating rezeki, right? I know that you've shared some pretty interesting insights with me that you've got from some of your mentors as well. You know?
Friends,
you got from some of your friends. I know that what's hard, that anybody who's going after their passion, and I have gone through this a lot, you know, especially this year with the current state with COVID-19. You know, there's a lot of projects that's put on hold, a lot of things that and I know you're aware of it as well, that, you know, I've worked on, we've pitched together, and then it got stopped midway, and stuff like that, you know, things that, you know, alhamdulillah, you know, we still managed, but still there was a lot that happened, and when it's not, there's a lot of uncertainty over things that you can't control, and I feel like this year has taught me that even more than any other year, especially when it comes to entrepreneurship and kind of like putting yourself out there and like, you know, making money. How would you know, deal with that kind of anxiety of the uncertainty of you know, where the money comes in ke tak lah. And especially in like the Islamic term would be rezeki, right? We view it as like our, say, English translation for that, like bounty is not just money, it's more rezeki is it's your wealth, in exactly what you just described earlier. It's your relationships as well, and everything around you. Is not just the money that comes in. It's every, like, you know, risking time and all that is a huge part of the tradition. So how would you deal with that anxiety of dealing with that?
Have a plan B or C.
Have a plan B or C.
I mean, like, you gotta. The thing is, like, with art, right? You gotta be able to step away and step back and be like, you know what? This is not cutting it for me at the moment. I gotta think about something else. You know.
You see, that's a very interesting approach, though, because I can see the value in that. Because I've also put myself in the complete opposite approach, where I don't have a plan B. Sometimes I put myself in a corner just so that it'll force me to get things going. But I guess there's no one approach throughout your life, right? You can apply one or the other depending on your situation at that time. And you're right, because sometimes there'll be days that you have to sit down and say, like, you know what, I think this is the right time to have plan B or C, that I need to kind of like take a step back, and then you know, and there could also be good times where you're just like, okay, it's either this, it's do or die lah. You know, it's then people who have put themselves in a situation like that will be like Stallone, you know, like before the whole Rocky thing, like he let
He sold his dog, right?
he sold his dog, dude.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's so crazy. Okay.
And to think he wasn't passionate about the dog.
Oh my
He
god.
loved the dog.
He bought the dog.
Yeah.
That was the first thing he did with
Yeah,
when the Rocky was made, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's just before like we kind of wrap up and close up, I kind of want to talk a bit about stories like this, because I love Stallone. I've quoted him many times. I view him as like a teacher when it comes to filmmaking and all that. He's a writer himself.
Yeah.
He wrote Rocky because I think he wasn't that great of an actor. He needed to write like a strong script for himself, right? And he went through crazy stuff, like he sold his dog. He was just like hungry because that was why he sold the dog. And then Rocky came out, nominated for an Oscar and all that. Happy ending like in that sense. All that story sounds sexy and nice until you're actually on the ground. And then you face your first hard day that you don't even have to, like, for me, I've never even been in a situation where I had to sell like a pet or anything, right? But even that terduduk lah, you're just like you're suddenly on your ass and you're just like, oh my god, this is so hard, Could you share just a little bit on that, like that struggle, and how should one kind of like overcome, and what, if you've been in those situation, what helped you to get it?
I think it's one of those things where you gotta sort of premeditate things happening. You know what I mean? I used to do that a lot as a kid. For example, like when I was scratching, I was DJing. At one point in my life, I remember like, if this is my bread and butter, what would happen if I broke an arm or like couldn't scratch anymore, or like how would that situation be? And being in that, because like I said, I was such an introvert that I'd go into my room and this whole zone thing where I'm thinking about, if all these things were to happen to me, what's my plan?
Wow.
So it's like that. It's the same thing with this. There's another funny story. So for about like 7 years of my life, when I was in high school, I was doing a lot of modeling work.
Right.
That's what was sustaining my turntablism. You know what I mean? Because so I was doing that for money. I got.
You were a model too.
I was doing modeling for some. It doesn't seem now. It doesn't look it now, but I was doing a lot of that.
Apps and all that.
Well, I was young, but I was doing a lot of like all these ads for like Coca-Cola and McD and all that kind of stuff. And that's what was sustaining my passion for DJing.
I see.
Right. But I remember thinking in my head, like, should I make this into a career? Because at one point they were like, going to acting and going into all these things, and I'm like, I don't think I'm really passionate about acting. I'm not.
You're not passionate.
I'm not. Yeah, but I remember going to my mind like, what if one day I grow fat, or lose my hair, or whatever,
Right,
So in my mind, I'm like, if those things happen, what do I do? Do I break down? Do I go into this whole cycle of anxiety? What do I do?
Right.
So in the end, I'm like, you know what? I got to think about something else. I got to develop skills.
I see.
I got to like really push this whole DJing thing. I got to get another skill set. Be a bit more learned. You know what I mean?
Right.
A bit more, I guess educated in some sense. So that I can fall back onto something else. So it's always about that.
Right.
It's the same thing with anything else. Like you got to always think about a scenario where what if things don't happen? Like what's next?
I would say that's a very Asian approach. If you think about a lot of even the Asian guys in Hollywood, most of them have a degree in some kind of like engineering I think do you ever watch this show called Heroes? There was
the show. Yeah.
Masioka, right?
Yeah.
I think his day job, he was an animator. Don't get me wrong, animation's quite a very creative thing on its own, but he has that as a fallback, which I think he decided to go into acting, but even if after a few years he disappeared, but the point is he will always still have like knowing that, okay, I was on this big TV show for a couple of years. That's still further than
most people
will ever get, right?
Who are even legit actors,
Who are even legit actors, you're right. And this guy is like, okay, I'll go back to to just animation. So you think having a fallback is still quite it's not a bad thing.
No, it's not a bad thing. Like like if things don't go well, like what's next? Do I go back to corporate? Do I go back to doing something else? Do I wash? Do I work at Starbucks for part of my life for a while? You gotta think about all those things.
Are you willing to do all those things?
If not, you're gonna go into the cycle of depression and anxiety. So and that's something that you don't want to go into. Because you're stuck.
That's fair.
I've had anxiety before in my life, and I know being stuck and like, okay, I don't know what to do, but you gotta like think of other ways and how to manage those things, and the only because for me it's always about just doing, like what's next? If not this doesn't work, what's next?
Yeah, I love
You
that.
know?
I love
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
very, very good. All right, Nif, thank you so much, man, for sharing everything that you've shared so far. You know, I think that we've had a lot of the stuff that we've discussed on today's episode were things that you and I always talk about and we banter, behind the scene or behind off camera
Yeah.
as well. And I still think that it's still very beneficial for me. I still find it quite therapeutic. The answers that you've given, it gives even like a kind of new perspective lah on the things that you shared so far. So kind of like before we end today's episode, would there be any kind of final words you want to share to the audience, especially when it comes to building your passion without having to starve?
I think first thing you got to do is first find what that passion is. Test it out. There are things you're passionate about. Maybe from this from just what do you call that? On the surface, yeah. So how do you know if you're really passionate about something? Really get involved. Do it on the side for a while and see whether this can really take off and become, I guess, a career or something that you can sustain. For example, if you're into videography, before quitting your job or dabbling into buying equipment and things like that, why don't you go and actually work on the set? Or take some I guess opportunities to work or do a bit of job on the side, borrow your friend's camera, and see if you really enjoy it, because it's a totally different thing when you're really 100% into it.
I see.
And I think from there, then you can decide, to be honest, I enjoy this. I love this. I love waking up and knowing that I'm packing my equipment or I'm sitting down editing. You will know.
Right.
And if that works out for you, then this is that you can then you sort of found something you're passionate about. And then from there, see if you can start transacting and getting clients to pay for your work.
Okay.
And yeah.
That would apply to any discipline.
Any discipline, yeah.
You kind of just go where people are, say, in the scenes are, and just kind of like put yourself in that space and mindset that you can learn and just be more exposed.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Exposed to everything, because it's not just the fun part. It's not one part of it. It's not just one part of just I'm just shooting. There's also this other part of the business side of things, client tak bayar or client bayar lambat, and so on and so forth, that you don't foresee, find these different groups and learn from these people. There's a lot of people who are out there to give input and advice. Learn from them lah. And like you said, betul, you can learn. This can apply to anything that I want to do. What you want to explore. Yeah.
Okay. Alright, cool. Thank you so much for that, Hanif. Alright, guys. So just before we end today's episode, I'm gonna put links in the description box below for some of Hanif's awesome work. I will have some of your music videos and some of the earlier work that you've done as well there.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll link them up, and Box and Beyond's website. No?
Not yet. We're still working on it.
Cool. Yeah. But I'll put you Hanif's Instagram there. If you guys ever looking for like an awesome videographer, this is the guy to call, man. So
thank you.
Till the next episode, guys. I'll see you guys then. Bye.